James Gibson, and I'm just going to be doing a demonstration on nested symbols for Flash Professional CS 5.5. Anyway, to get started here, we're going to create a new action script 3.0. So we'll clip on that one. All right, so for this demonstration, I'm going to be showing you how to make a butterfly that's going to flap across the stage, and it's going to have nested. What nested symbols are going to do for us are basically to give the butterfly the ability to flap independently of anything we're going to do in our timeline. So as it flies across the stage, it will be able to flap on its own, and we can send it in different places as we desire. So we're going to start off with just setting up a few things here. So I'm going to have my oval tool. I'm going to set my coloring to black, and what I'm going to do is basically just draw a little body for our butterfly. So that looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to go bring in some wings. Now the wings I pre-prepared in Photoshop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Import, Import to Stage. Now I've got the wing on my desktop here. So here it is right here. Now as you can see, it's quite large. So I'm going to click on it and right click and go Free Transform. And I'm going to press Shift and then click on this little corner point right here. And this will allow me to scale it down without changing its width or height, just the scale all told. So that looks pretty good for our wing size. Yep, I think that'll look quite nice. All right, so we have our body and our one wing. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert these both into symbols. I'm going to call this one right wing. And this one we're going to call body. So I'm actually going to set the registration to center here on this one. On the wing, I had it on the left side. It's really a minor point. We're going to be fixing that anyway, so don't worry too much about that. All right, so now we've got both our symbols, right wing and body. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside of our right wing and animate it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on my selection tool and I'm going to double click on the wing. Now notice up here things have changed a little bit. Scene 1 is our main scene, so that's where our primary timeline is. This is where we're going to set up the butterfly to fly across the screen. We're now inside right wing. So this is where we're going to, now right wing is going to have its own timeline, which you can see down here, which is where we're going to put together its, how it's going to flap. So I'm going to click on frame 5 here, and I'm going to put in a keyframe. I'm going to do the same thing at 10. So basically, 5 is going to be our mid flap, and 10 is going to take it back to its current position. So I'm going to go click on frame 5 here. And I am going to change this one a little bit. So I'm going to hit Free Transform. And, oh, sorry, my bad. One thing we do got to change. This little white circle in the center tells it where it's going to move from. So if you take a look here, as you can see, it's moving from the center. Now, obviously, this is a butterfly wing, so we want to move it from that part right there. So I'm just going to undo any motion I tend to happen to do. I'm going to click on the white circle, and I'm going to drag it to the left. Now, when I grab it and do it, as you can see, it's moving like that. So I think that should be pretty good. Yep, I think that'll be just fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these frames, and I am going to create a classic tween. All right, now the first thing that classic tween is going to do is it's going to reset those little white circles that we played with before. Now we want these all off to one side, so we're going to drag them all over here. There'll be one at frame 10, one at frame 5, and one at frame 1. All right, so now our wing should be animated. Let's check it out to see what that's going to look like. That looks pretty good, eh? All right. So now what we're going to do, now we're all finished in animating right wing. We're going to jump back out to our main scene. So now I'm back on scene 1. So we've got our right wing, but now we're going to need a left wing. So I'm going to over here under the library, I'm going to right click on right wing and go duplicate. And instead of right wing copy, I'm going to call it left wing. Okay. So this is actually left wing up here. I know it looks just like right wing. That's because we haven't changed it at all. But what we're going to do is we're going to drag down another copy of it. Didn't mean to do that. All right. So I'm just going to drag it over here. And all I'm going to do is to make it the left wing, I'm just going to flip it all the way over. And we're going to bring it over to our body here. Grab onto this one. Just so we can make them look pretty close to the same size. Yeah, it's a little bit on the big side, so we're just going to bend that in a little bit. Yep, I think that looks pretty good to me. Maybe just drag it a little bit closer. Not too much there. All right, that's looking great. So now what I'm going to do is, what we've got is a collection here of symbols here. We've got right wing, body, and left wing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select all three of them. Now this is where the nested symbols come into play. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually build a symbol out of these symbols. So I'm going to go modify, convert to symbol. Now this time, since it's my whole butterfly, I'm going to call it butterfly. Okay, so now we've got one whole butterfly. Let's take a look and see how that looks. That's looking pretty wonderful. Now, what's the real advantage of this one is that it lets us animate part of our it lets us animate the butterfly without actually doing anything to the timeline in scene 1. If we're looking, if you check out over here, we're still in scene 1 right over here, and scene 1 actually only has one frame. So now we can pull around our butterfly wherever we want to. I'm actually going to pull it off to the edge here. And given that's pretty large, I'm going to go to free transform, and I'm just going to shrink it down a little bit, just so we got it's got a bit more space on our stage. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to make this butterfly fly across the stage. The way I'm going to do that is a little bit different than what we did than we talked about previously. What we did before is we would set up keyframes wherever we wanted them to, say at frame 60 here, and then basically drag it from the starting point to where it's going to go, and it would fly across once we put in the classic tween that we worked with before. This time, however, we're going to play with one that allows us to tailor things a little bit more accurately. So I'm going to right click down here, and I'm going to go create motion tween. Now you'll notice this just jumped up a whole chunk. What this has done is it has added 1 second worth of frames to our animation. So since we're running at 30 frames per second, that's 30 frames. So, and if we want to make this longer, we certainly can. Let's make it 60, I think, for the moment. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to grab onto our butterfly and drag it over here. Oh, we're going to do it a bit farther. Now you'll notice this green line has appeared. Now what this line is it's basically saying at each one of these points, it's going to be 1 frame. So if I were to just hit Control Enter right now, there's our butterfly flying. But what we can do, this is the advantage of using motion tweens, is that we can bend this line to make it do what we want to. So if I pick up my selection tool here, I could bend it like this. And let's bend this one like... I think I'm going to bring this down a little bit here. There we go. That's some good. That's some great butterfly flying right there. So now let's see what our butterfly does now. Oh, it gets a nice little turn in there. That's wonderful. All right, and I think that's pretty good as our demonstration. So I'm going to stop that one there. When I'm ready to save, I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm just going to give mine a name. So I'm going to call this one Butterfly Demo. And if I decided I wanted to put this onto my WordPress site, for example, I would go Export, Export Movie, and I would make sure that I'm set to Animated GIF right now. This works great in WordPress. If you're looking for to put it into Wix, we're gonna look for an SWF file instead, and then I would just save this somewhere else. So I'll drop this onto my desktop. Just leave everything in here. Don't need to worry about that. All right, there we go. So I'm just going to drop out to my desktop, and there's our butterfly demo. So double click on this one. It should pop up here in just a second. It's taking its time. We're not going to pay attention to Internet Explorer right now. But there you go. That's our animated GIF of our butterfly flying. All right, thanks very much, and that's it for this tutorial. So have a good night.